You mentioned the ethical question earlier. I just want to address that again, because the vegans say we're not hurting the animals, and then your point is that when you grow vegetables, you are going to be killing these things, bugs and rodents and all these other things. I had Timothy Sheaf say, Brian, I killed one cow and I could potentially eat for 200 days. I eat a few soybeans and there might have been 20 animals that died. I mean, that was his counter argument to that. Yeah, what do you say when you hear the vegans talk to you about ethical, when they show you the slaughterhouses and say this is cruel and not fair?
Sure, sure.
Do they have a point?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think they have a point. There is certainly practices within industrial agriculture which are not good, and we should and I think most people in the industry, because I talk to ranchers and farmers all the time, and they say we don't support this. That's not the way we do it. So a lot of it is skewed. I mean, obviously there's propaganda. It's a propaganda, war, and they'll show some footage from a third world country, a guy in flip flops slaughtering a cow and saying, "Oh, this is how it's done commonly." And you go look at somebody like Temple Grandin, who shows you this is how cows are killed in the United States. And obviously they're dying. We just can't get past that point. I mean, they're dying. I think their death is probably more humane than a lot of ways humans die. I've seen a lot of human beings die. And it's a slow, often painful, awful process where these cows, they're happy, healthy one day, and then boom, within 3 milliseconds, their life is over. We can argue that's, we should let them live out their natural life expectancy. But let's talk about the natural life expectancy of a ruminant animal. I mean, there's studies on white-tailed deer population. This is a very similar analogous animal in the United States. And, if we look at the average white-tailed deer's life expectancy, something like 60% of them die before they reach like 30 weeks of age. And they don't die nicely. They don't die in a pleasant fashion. They're ripped apart by a bear or a coyote. They freeze to death, they starve to death, or they have some kind of infection. So their life is not, a wild animal's life is not better. And I know people talk about, well, if these animals weren't created, they wouldn't exist, and therefore they would have no suffering. But really, I mean, and again, we have to talk the difference between chickens and pigs and cows. There's a lot of nuance there, and there's ways people raise this. So it's not just a black and white, all, large-scale farming is awful and all, plant-based is wonderful. It's just far more nuanced than that. So I would challenge people to go visit, go see a farm, go actually walk with a rancher, talk with them, go visit these places that you're criticizing, because most people haven't done. People living in New York City, and I don't know how many million, we had 8 million people in New York or something like that, something like more. Yeah. I mean, they don't live on a farm. They have no idea. We're totally disconnected from the food source, and they were criticizing it. And, we see these ranchers saying, look, here I am every day, putting a back scratcher on my cow. I just posted a video on my Instagram today. The guy's, cow's getting his back scratched and his head patted. And these guys are doing it day to day. So it's really a different, the reality doesn't match, the presentation. And so, like I said, if you're trying to make that decision based on ethics, go get firsthand experience. Don't rely on me or somebody else to tell you. Go find out for yourself.
One of my guys went back to his hometown in Spain and was like talking about, oh, the vegan, I'm vegan now. And the farmer was like, been doing this for hundreds and hundreds of years on his farm. Pigs, they're eating the acorns, they're growing the thing, and they raise they slaughter it, and then they wrap it up and eat. And they're just like, what are you talking about? We've been doing this for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's sustainable. We're living off the land. Sure, we do some crops, and sure, we do this. They're like, this is an invention of some, urban intellectuals of human brains with too much time on their hands. And that was the feedback he got.
We have, we're seeing this right now. There's this push, and I know I've talked about the sort of the plant-based meat, the soy protein isolate and the pea protein isolate, and then the next sort of evolution is going to be the synthetically, cell manufactured meat. Yeah. And people are really excited about that. And then beyond that, they're talking about we're going to take microbes and fix nitrogen from the air and make food out of air, basically. And there's some technologies going on there. And so the assumption is that a scientist is going to be able to tell us this is exactly what human beings need to eat, and we're going to perfect it. We're going to have food as software. I've heard that term coming out. We'll be able to download the instructions for the microbes so they can produce the perfect human diet, the pellets or whatever, it's like the Jetsons or Star Trek or whatever. That's what they want to see coming. And, the reason beyond that is not, in my view, it's not to make us all healthier. It's basically profit driven. It's like we can make a lot of money on these cheap, low ingredient things, and that's what we're seeing over and over. But the cell-based meat You know, when we look at the actual process to do that, I mean, they have to take a cow fetus. You know, they basically take the fetal bovine serum. They take a big needle, stick it in the cow's heart. You know, after the mother has been slaughtered and the fetus is still kept alive. You know, because they have to get the blood and they can't anesthetize the fetus because it would cause problems with the serum. They draw the serum off. They stick the cells in that and they have to continuously provide that serum for these cells to live. And not only that, where do these cells get the protein? There's not like a protein fairy that comes in and gives these things protein. They have to get proteins from somewhere. So they get it from soybean isolate, from pea protein isolate. So you have to make these giant monocrops to support the cell-based culture. And then the question is, well, these cells don't have an immune system, right? They can't fight disease. So what do? They bathe them in antibiotics. You know, we hear all this, oh my gosh, there's antibiotics in meat, but they're bathing these things in antibiotics. And so, I mean, you think about how that process is gonna go out, and then we look at a cow, which is powered by the sun. I mean, it's solar powered. You don't need fossil fuels to make a cow, you know, turn grass into meat. You know, but you do in these big plants. And so they've looked at the the carbon footprint and say it's probably a net negative. And so but again, it's all marketing. We see this. Even the big meat companies, and some people could, Dr. Baker's a shill for the meat companies. I'm like, I wish they would support me. I'm doing their job for them, basically, quite honestly. But the big meat companies, Cargill, Tyson, JBS, Marfrig, they're rebranding themselves as protein companies. And what they do is because they also see that this potentially $100 billion market of alternate protein is where they want to go. And so we're seeing all this heavy investment. And so we're seeing this, don't eat meat, it's good for the planet, buy the protein. You know, I walked down 7th Avenue and I saw beyond this, beyond that, impossible this. It's everywhere. There's a huge marketing campaign. And again, what are you eating? What are you selling? You're selling highly processed, plant-based, which is a euphemism for cheap and profitable. I mean, this is what we're being told, and it's not going to make us healthier. It probably won't make us any unhealthier because we're already so sick. It's like you won't even notice, right? Because we're already metabolically demolished. I mean, there was a study that came out that said 88% of Americans are metabolically not healthy. So we just add more slop to the mix. Man, no one's going to notice. These guys are going to make their money. We're all going to feel better about saving the environment. And I think that's a big problem.